Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 2 finale of Tulsa King. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously, I know I'm getting to this quite late. It's been 2 weeks since this aired, but it is what it is. So I think I talked about this last episode where I was like, oh, things kind of, for the most part, seem pretty wrapped up. I think I even made the parallel to Agatha all along, how when you look at like episode 8 and 9, 9's more so like an extended epilogue. It kind of feels like this is like that as well, where it's like most things kind of got resolved, but there's still some meaty stuff that goes down in this episode too. But it feels like that was the finale, and this is like the epilogue in a lot of ways. Obviously it's like, because it's also like a slightly shorter episode too, but whatever the case may be, it's just interesting. But either way, when it's all said and done, we're picking up in the aftermath of everything that's kind of going down. We have the Cal of it all, and then we have the Dwight. And part of me was like, are we going to get Neil McDonough going forward, or is he going to like meet his end here? And Dwight kind of made it clear, like, no, we're not entering any partnership. You want me to get a slice of the pie that is this whole operation? It's like, no, you are going to give me everything, because if it wasn't for me, yes, you might have tipped me off about Ming, but if it wasn't for me dealing with that, you'd be a dead man. So you kind of have to accept this deal as it is, which Cal was still being like, no, we're businessmen. Let's kind of approach this as like, let's talk like gentlemen, which I think is so interesting, because Dwight came to you initially with like, hey, let's be buddy and let's be cool, and you spat in his face. You tried to like humiliate him, telling him that he was lesser than you. Now after everything's going down, now you want to talk like we're on equal footing. It's like, no, my friend, that's not how this works. So you either give me this whole thing, or Bigfoot over here is just going to cap you. And it's like, nah, it seems like that was never Dwight's thing. He was like, right, that was a negotiation tool. Let's not forget that he kind of pulled a similar thing earlier in this season, to a certain extent, when he did it with Stacy, because he brought the gun because I think at the time he wasn't even sure whether or not he was going to kill her or not. It kind of has that same energy, but I think maybe he went into this with a little more thought of, no, I'm not going to kill Cal. But even he's like, yo, like, all right, fine, the operation's yours, because Dwight kind of laid it out for him. He's like, wow, you got guts, but let me tell you how this is. You are not cut out for this world. This is the underworld. The underworld almost got you killed because of the whole situation with Ming. The fact of the matter is, you got oil money. You got that old money situation with your family. So it's like, go live a rich life. Stay out of the gangster world. Leave all this to me, because this is a gangster's world, and hey, I'm a gangster. So Cal walks out and bows out, and I was like, well, still leaves the door open that he could return, but it feels like this is closing that chapter on Cal. But once again, he's still alive. We can always open that book up again. And at the same time, we also have negotiations with Bill, because Bill wants to split everything 50-50 with Cal's operation. Because it's like, well, now Dwight's operation, but it's like, no. Like, because Dwight's all about like, hey, I'm not going to share any of this with you. So ironic too, because he had warned Cal, like, the reason why, like, your biggest kryptonite and all of this, the thing that will be your biggest downfall is your pride. Your pride is what got you this far. It's like, yeah, but the same thing could be said about you, Dwight. Like, you are, but I mean, that's the hypocrisy. Like, we can see it in other people. Well, we don't always recognize it in ourselves. Like, yes, Dwight, you are an extremely prideful person. Half the stuff that's going down this season is because your pride and ego clash with other people's pride and ego. So, hence, we got the season that we got. So, but Dwight doesn't want to like split 50-50 with Bill. And it's like, once again, it's just like, Bill did do his fair share. It's like, right, I warned you about Ming. I try to settle the debt between us. It's like, but obviously Dwight's not going to let go. The fact is, yes, but Jimmy's dead because of you. It's like, two things. One, your guy that Tyson shot is like, well, he's still alive. The other guy did die, but it's like, hey, he tried to come after me. I defended myself. So like, you can't really, blame me for that. But it's like, right, we're kind of at this interesting stalemate, but I kind of owe you, but I don't. Dwight saying like, I don't owe you anything, but Bill's kind of like, you do, because it's like, most of my people took out like half of Ming's guys, so it's like, you kind of owe us. So He's like, he wants that 50-50 split. He's even saying, like, once this is done, we never have to see each other. I just get my money and I bounce. And I was like, well, I know Frank Grillo's got a lot going on currently. I mean, but a lot of that stuff's done for right now, because I know he's going to be in, I believe, season 2 of Peacemaker. He's obviously in the Superman movie. Creature Commandos is around the corner, but all that stuff is all done at the time of me recording this. At least it's like Superman, I think, is still post-production. I don't know how much of that's like still done. I know they're like still probably like editing the movie to some extent. And I think Peacemaker finished wrapping. So my whole point was I wasn't sure if Frank Grillo was going to make it out of this season or not. So I was like, I kind of would hope he'd stick around, but I'm also like, I don't know what his schedule looks like going forward and whether or not he could fit Tulsa King, or whether they would even have him back. Like, storyline wise, they might not even have, like, with the way things are set up by the end of the episode is unclear. Like, well, there's room to, much like the Cal situation, there's room to come back. But like I said, the entire time I'm thinking, like, before we even got to the episode, I'm like, I could see them popping Bill if they want to. So we have all that. And then finally you also have Chicky doing his thing too, you know, showing up at the weed shop, stomping around, not like, no wonder no one wants to work with you. You're an asshole. Like, it's like, come on. Like, for one, you're in Dwight's territory. You should show some respect to the people that are working with him. But it's like, you're not treating anyone right and stuff like that. It's just like, yo, like, come, but because it just shows you twofold. One, just once again, that Chicky's just an asshole by nature. He doesn't know how to talk to people. That's why people don't like you. But for him, I think if you go by that classic line of, is it better to be feared or to be loved? You know, he's more of a, well, why it's better to be feared. It's like, oh, the biggest thing is kind of, the best choice is, it's better to be, why choose? You know, why not do both? I want to say, like, did I steal that from the Tudors? I think that was some of the promotion material for, like, the Tudors was, because isn't that Henry VIII? But my point is that Chicky's also coming from the perspective of, also, he doesn't respect Dwight. He always feels like Dwight is a relic of what used to be his father's generation. This is new bloods. This is our thing. This is not yours. So, like, he hasn't respected Dwight. He respects his legacy, but at the same time, that legacy means nothing, because it's like, right, you challenged me. You're like, I gotta, like, adhere to who you used to be, that you mattered, but it's like, who are you? You don't really got no claim on anything. This is my operation, even though Dwight is in better standing because he's got his own operation here in Tulsa. You don't even have New York anymore because you've been stepped aside. Because, like, VIDS called up Dwight, so he already knew what time it was. Because Chicky was kind of coming up to kind of surprise you, not knowing that VIDS called him up, and it's like, yo, Vince was like, yo, Chicky's here to try to settle things. Like, you know, you can kind of get back into the fold. But it's like, well, if I want to. And it's like, well, Chicky was given an ultimatum. Either he makes this happen, or, you know, the other families are okay with it. And it's like, Dwight was like, okay, what if I say no? And Vince is like, well, then we just, you know, we cross that bridge when we... Because he's got no love lost for Chicky. Because, you know, it's like, once you killed Pete, and also, once again, you're an asshole and you treat people like shit. So it's kind of like, you ain't no love lost there. So, and I love that it's like, oh, like, I forgot what he said. He's like, I know, like, a bus or something, I would like to run over you. And just Vince's takeaway was, I think he's warming up to me. I was actually surprised, because I was kind of, I think I talked about it previously. I was like, I kind of get the feeling like Vince might not make it. Because I figured I'm like, Vince won't make it out of this, and Chicky will kind of be back to where he started. I thought that's how this was all going to play out. So I was kind of worried and concerned. But I'm like, hey, I like Vince. So I kind of, you know, and I guess in a weird way, you can make the argument, maybe... And I was about to cut Vince and Bell and be like, maybe Dwight likes him, but it's like, he definitely doesn't hate you nearly as much as he hates Chicky, but it's still the thing of, that's not really saying much. So, but it's like, yeah, so I guess it's like, yeah, he's warming up to me a tiny bit, the most minuscule amount, but yeah. Either way, we also had the whole situation of, well, the actual confrontation between Chicky and Dwight, and he's trying to make it seem like, nah, everything's kosher. What happened, that decision you get to sit here, that was Pete's idea. I didn't want nothing about it, but hey, this is my dad. I had to respect him, but hey, that was wrong of him, yada, yada, yada. It's like, shut up. Because Chicky, I guess, doesn't know that Dwight knows, like, the reason why you're here is because you're on your back foot. This is your last opportunity to get back what you lost. So he doesn't know that. Once again, he's coming into this thinking he's got the leg up on Dwight, and it's like, even if Dwight didn't know what he knew, it wouldn't have changed anything. He would never submit to you. He'd never go back to New York, Because it's like, why would I go back to the place? Because he talks about it. He's like, the irony is, I'm all the way out here in Tulsa, and yet you make this ain't the first time Chicky's been out to Tulsa to see and confront Dwight. This is actually the second time. And it's like, you have all this time to do that now, but when I was on the inside, not even that far away, in the same city, you couldn't make the time. It's like, that is the effed up. And he's like, yeah, that was our fault, but we'll make things better. It's like Dwight has not fucked with Chicky for a long time because he sees Chicky as who he is, like the perpetuant child that it's just like, you don't get your way, you storm off, you get pissed, you know? So it's like, I know who you are, so it's like, I'm not going to deal with you. Get out. Like, we're done. There's no negotiating here for me. And it's like, okay, Chicky's like, yo, we're not done. I'm never going to go away. And it's like, he's all like, this is never going to stop until one of you is dead. And so what does Chicky do? He has to sit down with Bill, and he's telling Bill, like, yo, our family situations, was it like the Sicilian situation here, like back in the 12th century? It's like, the fact of the matter is, it's like Dwight's a greedy person, which even Bill's like, I recognize that, but he's a good earner, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, hey, at the end of the day, you see what he's doing to New York. Eventually, if you get in bed and you're fine and dandy with everything between you and Dwight, what's to say enough time doesn't pass that Dwight doesn't get a little greedy and starts like asking for more. You give him an inch, he'll take a mile type of thing, right? And so he's telling, you know, Bill, it's like, yo, like, either I can whack Dwight and get what I want and get back what's mine, or we can work together and get back what's ours. I was like, wow. Okay. And part of me immediately was like, Bill's going to double cross Chicky, isn't he? Because if he doesn't, they're both going down for this. So they do have their sit down and their meet. And it's still that thing of, hey, like, we could make things right, yada, yada, yada. I was like, how's this all going to play out? I shit you not. Well, I was thinking like, well, Chicky's got to die, right? Because he's too much of a loose end. He's too much of a threat. He's been so persistent. It's like, he's got to go. I mean, because Dwight did even call him out for killing people. He's like, whoa, that wasn't me. He's like, you know, everyone knows that you did it now, but you still won't admit it. Because admitting it will make you even more of a piece of shit. Because it's like, it's speculation and everyone thinks you're a piece of shit. If everyone had confirmation from you actually admitting it, I don't know if it would be better if he admitted it. It'd probably be just as bad. But regardless, it's still, either way, there's all the reason in the world Chicky has to go. I had to rewind because I did not even see the gun go up to his head. All I saw was Chicky standing there and it get blown away. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? I had to rewind. I only saw it the second time when Bill pulled the gun up on him like that. I was like, hey, yo. And I guess that's why Dwight was okay with like, yo, don't check any of them. I mean, that's why I was like, I don't know, like Chicky probably didn't come strapped. But that's probably why Dwight was like, yeah, don't check them because I don't want Chicky to know that Bill came into this situation strapped, because they both probably were like, yo, we're not going to come in this strap. We're going to negotiate. I guess like them working together was supposed to be them strong arming Dwight. I don't think the point was, because the way he had told it before made it seem like me killing Dwight and us working together getting back what we want is two separate things. I thought they could be the same thing in the regards of, like, together we'll work together to get what we want divided up, and we'll kill Dwight, versus I'll just do it on my own and get back what I want. But this way you get what you want as well. So I don't know if the plan was to kill Dwight. It was like, no, us together as united front, working together to, get Dwight to kind of sign it. Because the whole point was, we can take this operation, what you did in Tulsa, you can send someone else to these other places where these schmucks are kind of running things, like the Tulsa situation, and basically replicate it in other states, and we could like kind of franchise the whole thing essentially, right? But either way, because I think Bill didn't want any smoke with Dwight, and maybe for him it's just like, this is some underhanded shit that he's like, well, I was already at war with Dwight before, I did everything to snuff that quick. I'm not about to do that again. So it's like, right, I guess this was also his way to kind of bury the hatchet a little bit with Dwight, put them in a more favorable position. But like I said, first time I didn't even see the gun pull up towards Chicky's head. I think that's why I think it's so crazy too. It's such a what the fuck moment, even though you kind of feel like Chicky was going to go. It's because, and it feels very befitting, and I think that's the reason for it. It's so unceremonious. It's not some big like boss moment. Like even the biker dude from season 1, like that was a pretty metal ass death that like wasn't it like antlers or something that like Dwight like skewered his face, not skewered his, but like impaled his face on or some shit like that. Like it's a pretty meta, like it's a pretty like bombastic thing, right? Chicky was so unceremonious. It's like, yo, you got the classic gangster thing of you didn't even see it coming. Hell, like I said, I didn't even see it coming when it happened the first time. So it just, there was no big moment of like, yo, I pulled a gun on you. We had a speech or something. It's like, no, you're in the middle of the talk thinking you're spitting. And and I think what also pissed, it's also the thing of like, yo, he's good with this. Like, cause Dwight was like, yo, Bill, you okay with this? And Chicky was like, I don't talk to him, talk to me. Like, he's good with that. We already said all that. So, like I said, not the fact is that Dwight was kind of unsurprised, made me go like, right, this was already set up. Because I was about to say, not less, very much like the Stacy situation, not less Bill made that decision at the last minute. But I'm like, no, like the way Dwight kind of gave him the nod, it's like, yeah, they already kind of knew what it was. So it's like, cool. Bill gets his 50%. So I'm like, all right. So they don't have, I mean, it's kind of fine all across the board. Bill gets what he wants, bounces. We don't have to interact with each other. New York's not going to give a shit about Chicky because it's like, well, Dwight drew the line in the sand. Plus, New York doesn't care. They gave the sign off, so everything's kind of on Vince. So things are kind of Gucci and culture, all Gucci on that front. So that's where things currently stand on that front. So you're like, okay, I guess everything's kind of resolved. Then we have like the closing of other chapters where it's like, right, closing of business deals and stuff like that. Mitch taking over the car dealership, shooting a commercial. I love that, having Grace shoot that. And it just like, once again, the local commercials are so good. And it's just like Mitch wanting nothing to do it because he's like, I'm not an actor or whatever. But it's like, oh my God, slashing prices, kind of the whole Zorro aesthetic. I'm like, I love how cheesy this commercial is. It's so good getting to play it in front of the room, I guess. It's like, right, showing them the final product before they put it in circulation in Tulsa. But I love that commercial so much. And I just love that Bodie obviously had to reluctantly be in the commercial, and he's just kind of like the least enthusiastic. Like everybody, Fred, Grace, and Clint are all about it except for Bodie. Which, speaking of Bodie, he talks to Joanne about like, yeah, obviously the business and stuff. Had to show her office and stuff like that. But you know, it's like, right, we'll get like a drive-through and stuff like that. I think the wind farm thing was still being like figured out, I believe. I think that's what Bodie was talking to her about. So, and obviously, which I think is dope because that means we will be seeing more of Joanne. I am curious because the way things are between Dwight and Tina, there is no going back. That bridge has been burnt. So probably will sadly not see any more Tina going forward, maybe. So, and he probably won't be able to directly interact with his grandchildren. I don't know if like they're on speaking terms currently, or I mean, it's not like things ended, like they've ended badly, but not as bad as they were before. I think they're going to at least be on speaking terms. It's just maybe not going to make the mistake of like, I'm always going to keep you at a distance going forward. Maybe, I don't know. But the way things are in New York now, I don't know whether that's going to mean anything for Tina and her family, but we'll see. Obviously the Dwight and Margaret, once again, like the Margaret just continues to surprise me with how like she found like a shell casing at her place and her ranch, and then she just smiles. I'm like, why are you so all about that? I mean, once again, it's nice because like Dwight's last situationship, that being, well, this is more of a relationship, whereas the whole thing him and Stacy was a situationship. And it's like, well, it makes sense why that didn't work out. You're literally on opposite sides of the law. She's a Fed, you're not. You're a gangster, you know, so, but Margaret's kind of all about it, and you know, I still don't fully get why, but she accepts Dwight flaws and all, gangster and all, so, which I do love that Armand was able to get his job back. Obviously, he apologizes, still wants to work to get his family back. It's like, you did leave your son that awkward voicemail a couple episodes back because you thought you were donezo, so you're good. Dwight did tell him like, we're good, but I don't know if that means going forward Armand doesn't have to give him any more kickback, like doesn't have to pay him anymore, or whether that's still a thing. Whatever the case may be, luckily Armand was able to get his job back, you know, because I love Margaret was like, oh, it's not me that you owe the apology to, and she looks at Spencer, and Spencer's like, no, we had a pretty extensive talk, because like when Margaret was coming out, they were talking pretty chilly, and it's like, oh, okay, you were kind of in a very awkward place, so it's like, right, it's one of the few places that Armand is good at something, and she's like, "Yo, you're gonna have to go to like a drinking program." He's like, "Hey, I get it. I'll do it. Whatever." He's got a lot of stuff to work through, but he's in a better place. Him and Dwight are definitely in a better place with everything. So hopefully things can be mediated. He fixed things up with Dwight, fixed things up with Margaret and Spencer. So next thing you could do is with you and your family. Granted, who knows how his ex is going to feel all about that, because she probably is kind of very, especially after their last conversation this season, it's like, oh yeah, like fuck you. You're permanently on my shit list going forward. But we'll see if he could remedy that situation or not. So overall in all, like everything's looking good. Everything's looking, like I said, there's a lot of closure throughout this episode. Like I said, it just feels like, well, we're wrapping up everything all night. It's nice and tidy. And then we had the Fed situation where it's like, oh, DC wants all the stuff on Dwight. And you're like, what the fuck is that about? My immediate thought was like, there's no way we're going to find out Chicky was an informant or something like that. I was like, there's no way. I mean, I don't think so. I was like, could someone that's involved in all of this be an informant or something? But then, like, why would you need all the stuff on Dwight if that was the case, So, I don't know. I guess maybe because Dwight's been making too much, like, pull in a gangster world because his ties to, I guess, to New York, now all the stuff with Kansas City. So maybe he's making too much noise and it's gotten too much in a spotlight type of situation. I don't know. Like, I was kind of worried about when they brought up the whole thing about Margaret waking up at 4 a.m. I was like, that seemed too specific. I was scared during that scene. I was like, because at that point, I think Chicky and Bill had their talk, so I was worried they were going to stroll up on that spot. It's like, well, that didn't work out for Ming, so to be fair, they were expecting Ming and stuff, but I was hoping, I was like, don't let that be the case. And now that, what does the episode end with this? Like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, oh, okay, so they set that up for a reason, and lo and behold, like, people with guns roll in. I'm like, you getting like bags over your head snatched up. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And we don't get to see who it is, but someone's like, yo, you're working for us now. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, what organization do you belong to? Kind of being able to just snatch people up in the middle of the night, no problem. Because Dwight was like, yo, like, the thing is, now they've all kind of gone legitimate. Everyone's going to get a piece of the pie of what they're owed, and and all this. So everyone's going to get their piece, and everything's good, everything's great. And the whole thing I thought was interesting too from Dwight, where he was like, right, like when he was locked up, the whole thing of trying to figure out life, like what life's all about. He's like, I've pondered, and so many people ponder. He's like, it's basically a situation that no one will ever have a definitive answer. People have their guesses. This is what the things that people take away from life here and there. But it's like, right, he's lucky to have the people around him, Margaret, his daughter, his grandchildren, his sister. Like, he has a lot to be thankful for around the people around him, and this family, this makeshift family he's kind of made for himself in a lot of ways. So I'm interested to see where the hell all of this ends up taking us going forward next season. Like I said, who could he be working for, and for what purpose? Like, are they going to use Dwight to kind of get connected to an even bigger, like, are we going to like have Dwight kind of mixing it up politics wise? Are we going to deal with some like corrupt politicians that have ties to like gangsters and mobs or something? I have no idea where this potentially go. As I did mention, next season, the show was renewed, not only for season 3, but also season 4, which I'm like, hell yeah, I'm all about that. So I'm excited to see where the hell the next season takes us, what storylines we might circle back to, which ones are kind of, like I said, like the Cal and Bill of it all, we probably won't see any of them anymore, but also like this Dwight situation, where does this go, who snatched him up, what does this mean for him and Margaret's relationship? She kind of knew what she was getting in bed with, but it's like, will this change things? Will we see Stacy anymore? Obviously, she got sent elsewhere, but I'm curious if she'll ever float back around into the show. I'm interested to see what the next season has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.